Ho, 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 cheeky monkeys.
Toppy.
It's Bergkamp.
Hashtag fuck Ellis.
That's magnificent.
Hello, John. Coming to out.
Well done. Bye-bye.
Be like the Arsenal. Be ambitious. Come on.
Hello and welcome to Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm your host, John, and tonight my guest will be... First up, we've got the man behind the buttons. He's making a return. It's Danny, the GFP. You right, Danny?
I'm not the GFP, but carry on. That's my car.
I mean, I called you that every time I've been on here, so I'm not going to change now, am I?
That's the name of my new podcast I'm doing, isn't it? I'm not the GFP.
Oh, yes. Very good one. You got to encourage him, people. Danny's going to do like a little 20, 30-minute show, just him rambling about different things once a week. He's definitely going to do it.
It'll be my thoughts on bowel movements, religion and cats every episode.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me if it got more listeners than this. Except for this week, of course, because we've got a star-studded lineup, besides me and Danny, obviously, because we're not stars or studded. I don't know, I might be studded, actually, I'm not sure. But we do also have radio superstar Josh. Hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for such a warm introduction. It seems odd. I'm normally on the receiving end of some horrific insult.
I mean, I'm trying to be less offensive to ginger people, so, I thought I'd start by, giving you an olive branch.
Thanks. I don't like olives, but it's the thought that counts.
Well, look, you try and please some people and they throw it back in your face. Fucking gingers. We also have this week with us Fleet Street's finest, your friend and mine, but of course, better friends with David Ornstein. It's Simon Collins. You right, Simon?
I'm very good, thanks. I'm very good. You mentioning star-studded just makes me think of the Rhinestone Cowboy and the abuse that Chris got for must have been the best part of 2 months from Jace about that. But good times. Well, those were the days when we could play whatever music we wanted at the end of the show.
Oh yeah, damn you, YouTube, damn
Good
you.
old days.
But if you want to bring that back, listeners, please feel free to tweet at AFC38 and remind him that he is a Rhinestone Cowboy. As you can tell, we don't have a lot to speak about this week because the intros were a little bit long and also off the top of the head. So it's really just the ring game and the tiny bit of Arsenal news because there's nothing else going on because it is the interlull time. Boo. But we have got the Ren game to talk about. I suppose who we drew in the Europa League as well. So, Ren, Arsenal, we won 3-0. We got the business done. Josh, I'm going to come to you first. What did you make of the game, the lineup? I thought it was very positive again from Emery. He went with everything he got. We got some luck with Lacazette, his band going, and a really good performance, I thought, from the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to touch on that? Stan Kroenke flying out to UEFA headquarters with a brown paper bag to get Lacazette involved.
Hey, look, if Stan did it, then by all means, great. He's
all of the pros and cons in the list of Stan Kroenke. At least there's something in the pros column now.
Absolutely.
It was an attacking lineup. It was something we needed to go hell for leather. I think with what we saw in the first leg, it was completely unacceptable to be in the situation that we were. And it was just a requirement, early goals needed. Even at 2-0, we weren't comfortable. But certainly, maybe it's just us as Arsenal fans would say a 2-0 lead and us in theory through. Well, unless of course you're a Millwall fan as well. But I'm sure we'll get to that at some point about 2-goal leads. But yeah, I think overall it was a good performance from us to get through that in the end. And some of the game got incredibly scrappy, but I think it shows the maturity we've got as a squad that, I think under a previous regime, we might have shirked the challenges and kind of gone in within ourselves. But to see the boys fight and not get, not completely lose their heads. I think Lacazette showed that perhaps, getting that elbow in the previous round where he got his suspension for, I think he, in the end, looked like he was the one that maybe could have got sending off. But otherwise, I was very happy with the result and to get through to the next round.
I mean, Simon, it was clear Rennes were going to come to the game with a game plan of sit deep and try and break on the counter, and they've got a lot of pacey players, and they showed that in the first leg. And Emery, as he's done all season, adjusted the system. We switched to a back three again from the previous game where we played the back four. And he got everything spot on, I thought, in the game, considering he'd had, a rough week or two previous to that because things hadn't gone his way. I thought he managed it very well.
Yeah, I think after the nightmare we had in France, that was about as perfect as a result as Emery could have hoped for, and a perfect week after the United game. And as you say, the formation for me was the main thing that stood out, because I think the last time I was on here, which was probably a fair few weeks ago, I agreed with everyone who was on the panel that night that I think we should be playing four at the back with two holding players and then three attacking midfielders behind a striker. But I think we saw against Rennes that Emery's found his formation. And for me, excluding Leno, who you'd bring in, and probably Socrates as well, he's found his first team, because Aubameyang looked good, Lacazette looked good, Ozil looked good, Ramsey looked good, and those are our four, for me, best players. And if you can find a way to get all four of them in the team, that's everything Arsenal have wanted. And it's probably taken, 7-8 months for Emery to work it out. But I think he's finally worked out the system and the personnel, which is now Arsenal's best team. And Rennes weren't very good. I was actually very disappointed with them. I think as soon as Arsenal got that early goal from Aubameyang, they shat themselves, really, didn't they? They got so nervous, and they knew that they were in for a game, and Arsenal could have won by 4 or 5 in the end. Aubameyang should have got 2 more after he got his second. But the way we went about dismantling them, Ainsley Maitland-Niles looked great at right wing back. He seems to have solved the issue there, where no Bellerin and Lichtsteiner not looking great. Kolasinac looked good again, and it was a perfect night. And I think now for the rest of the season, where we've got 8 league games left, just Europa League, that is the team to play, and that is the formation to play. And for me, there is no debate.
Oh, fair enough. Danny, what did you make of Mesut Ozil? Because that's been the kind of the sticking point of trying to get. There was the talk of you can't play Ramsey and Ozil together in the same team. If you play Ozil, you've got to play 2 up front so he can play properly as a number 10 and have that freedom. Do you agree with Simon that Emery's got the balance now and that Ozil's putting in the performances so he can, I hope not just do this in the Europa League, but start doing it in the Premier League as well from now to the end of the season?
See, I'm not sure. If you'd have put me on that pitch against Rennes the other night and I'd have played in the 10 position, just because the team won 3-0 and we got through, doesn't mean I had a good game. Now, you look at Ozil's Opta stats, he got a 6.9. He was the worst player on the pitch for us, apart from, I think, Lacazette, but he came off. Lacazette didn't do very well at all. So I don't know what the situation is with Ozil. I like the fact that he's playing in that position. I like the fact that Ramsey is also there, because then they could swap around a little bit. So whether he's actually doing the job or not, is it any coincidence that we've gone on a really good run? I don't think Ozil played. Did he play in the first leg when we lost 3-1?
I can't remember the lineup. I'll have to go back and look.
Well, see,
no, I don't think he did.
No, I don't think he did. And did he play when Man United beat us 3-1 in the FA Cup? The point I'm coming to is, it seems that Emery has now managed to go, right, okay, Man United beat us 3-1. I learned from that. We beat them 2-0. Rennes beat us 3-1. He's learned from that. We beat them 3-0. The transition between him losing the game, making bad substitutions, and then redeeming it almost instantly in the next game is something that is really good to see. And whether Ozil, getting back to your point, whether Ozil is a part of that or not, if you'd have played another player in that position rather than Ozil, or you wouldn't have played the 2 up front, would it have made a much difference? Because Lacazette didn't really do anything that game. Ozil didn't do anything that game. But then again, could it be a case of the parts equal more than the sum? Oh, I can't never get these things right, do I? some of the parts are worth more than some of the other. What's the saying? Someone help me.
We all know what you mean, Danny. Yeah. Ozil did play in the first leg because he was I think he was the one everyone expected to come off when Socrates got sent off. And he stayed on for a while, didn't he?
Yeah, John, that was the one that you tipped in the pod before the game.
Yeah.
He'd come back in for captain.
Yeah.
That was his kind of returning game back into the squad.
Yeah, I don't think you can blame Ozil for that particular game because Socrates getting sent off was obviously the big changing factor in that. But it's interesting what you say there, Danny, because I think if you look at that team, I still thought Ozil had a fine game. It wasn't his best in the Arsenal shirt by any means, but the fact that Iwobi wasn't in the starting lineup and Mkhitaryan wasn't either, who are two players who could probably play that position or can interchange with some of the other guys in the team, who've actually been in really good form lately. So maybe it's a case of this is the formation that best suits the squad of players we've got, rather than necessarily getting an individual performance out of a player every single game.
And having Ozil on the pitch is going to scare someone because it's like putting your hand in a tank full of piranhas. They might not bite you straight away, but eventually you're going to get bitten.
I'm really glad you said a tank full of piranhas. I was wondering where that was going.
But also another thing that allows is us to go, right, fair enough, we're playing 3-5-2 roughly, or 3-4-1-2. And then we take off Lacazette and Ozil and go bring on a couple of wingers and go, bang, there you go. We're now playing three up front. And the teams go, whoa. It's like a boxing game where you go from southpaw to orthodox, and then they go, well, that's a complete new system. They're attacking us, they're stretching us down the wings, and it's just good to have the ability to do all of this lot. But my only worry with this is that Emery now has, this does look like Simon was saying, this looks like his best formation. But are we a team with a club with the finances that we can afford to have best players to play in 4 at the back and 5 at the back, if you want to call the wing backs 5 at the back, then also play 2 up front or play 3 up front or 1 up front and 2 wide? So many combinations, but I think he likes to have a whole set load of combinations and tactics and variants so he can change it for whatever team he's playing it against. But do we have the kind of players that can do that all through the season? Because I think we're going to need some, especially when Ramsey goes, that's going to be a whole huge hole that's going to have to be filled. And this is going to be expensive.
Emery did say earlier in the season that he had kind of 2 combinations with the midfield and striker pair. If I can get it the right way round, I believe it was Aubameyang and Ozil, and Lacazette and Ramsey were the 2 players he'd play together. Is that right, John?
I think, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense that Ozil would be the one who can find the pass for a runner like Aubameyang, and Ramsey who can run on behind a guy like Lacazette who can do the good sort of little 1-2s and stuff in interplay. So, it makes sense.
I think it was a case of just getting both those combinations on the pitch to ensure at least one of them's going to tick, going to click, and then the fact you've got Lacazette and Aubameyang that click as well, and Ozil and Rambo that. They've played with each other for, 4 seasons?
Yes.
Now? 4 or 5 seasons?
26 minutes against Man United in the FA Cup, so I think he must have come on at some point, like you were saying. But, it's all a matter of time, and it's a new formation and all playing together. And, as an Arsenal fan, I want to see Lacazette, Aubameyang up front, Ramsey and Ozil in the middle, and just build it around that lot because goals win games.
Yeah. Josh, just coming back to you, it was Aubameyang again who got 2 goals on the night. I know Maitland-Niles scored as well, but not only did he score 2, but he also missed a few that were probably easier to take. Is it fair to criticise him just because he's got so many goals this season? Should we still be criticising him for those misses? Because is he just going to be one of those strikers who you kind of have to live with the fact that he might score 2 or 3 in a game, but he might also miss 5. Is he just a one Chris up? Is he a Edison Cavani in that sense?
I was going to say, no striker has got 100% conversion record from every shot they have on target. To be fair, Aubameyang was quite close to that in the early parts of the season. I think it was something like he had 15 shots on target and 4 goals. But there were...
It was over expected goals, I think. He was actually over the number or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was mad. But there is that case that some of them you're just looking and going, come on, mate. If I think the chance I'm thinking of is, the ball was squared to him and he just had almost an open goal because the keeper was out the equation. If he'd missed that, he hadn't got his first 2 goals, you're a bit more like, okay, fine, he's trying to find his feet, get used to where the goal is. But for that, after scoring 2, you're thinking, come on, let's straight in there. We've already seen the Black Panther, which I'm sure we're going to come on to as well for this celebration. But you think his mind would be clear at that point and he could go on and get the hat-trick. Unless, of course, he'd forgotten where his other costume was for his hat-trick goal.
Yeah, I did wonder what he was going to pull out if he did get the hat-trick. Simon, I'm going to come to you on first the celebration, but also the ref. Aubameyang's obviously famous for his Spider-Man mask he used to bring out at Dortmund. He's brought out the Black Panther one, which is cool. Rwanda forever. Wakanda forever, as they say. But
Rwanda forever would be more on point with Arsenal's advertising and branding. So,
what did you make of the referee in the game? I understood why he booked him. I don't know if that was the rule in Germany as well. Maybe it was. He must have got a ton of yellow cards if that was the case. But what did you make of the ref in general in the game? Because he seemed to. I don't want to say he lost control of the game because there wasn't horrendous tackles in it, but the players were getting around him a lot, and he seemed to be getting swayed quite easily on decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit concerned sort of earlier on in the game. I think just get with referees where they have this thing where when like an incident happens and they sort of sprint over, 10, 15 yards to get to the incident, to get the card out and to book the player. And I sort of turned to my colleague who was at the game with me and I said, this has got an Arsenal red card or a red card written all over it, a Xhaka one or something like that, because you just felt like rather than diffusing the situation, the referee was adding petrol to the fire and sort of inciting it up. And Lacazette was the one who maybe could have gone off. He did a stupid striker's tackle. I don't think it was a red card. It was a bad tackle. A yellow was probably right. But from as soon as Lacazette had that yellow, every Rennes player is looking to try and get him sent off. Any contact, any opportunity. And what's the left back's name? I've forgotten now. Was one of them who ended up getting booked for protesting. When Lacazette just clipped him. So the players were aware of the referee and how you felt like he was there to to try and stamp his mark on the game, which sometimes isn't needed. You just want a cool head, and sometimes the best referees are the ones you don't notice. But with Aubameyang, I understand why he got booked, the ruling. So it's FIFA rules is excessive celebration will be booked. Maybe that's Ronaldo should have got booked when he did his one the other night. But I think the issue would be, if later in the competition this comes back to haunt Aubameyang. I don't think it was so much with the actual mask itself in a way. Because you might remember there was Facundo Sava who played at Fulham years ago and he used to have the mask in his sock and he would just whip it out and put it on. I think that was almost okay. I think it's the fact it was pre-planned in a bag behind the goal. He goes looking for the mask. He puts it on. That makes it excessive because that's like, he's planned that. He's put the bag behind the goal. He's had to find the bag. He's got the mask out. He's put it on. So the referee's probably right to book him. And, it's the same with like at the weekend with James Maddison, who got booked for a message on his shirt, which is, dedicated to someone who was suffering with cancer and had passed away. It's probably not really right, but you have to sort of do it because that is the law and no one likes it. And I think it's in this case where it's harmless what he's doing, but the referee just had to book him. And the hope really is it doesn't come back to bite him. But I don't know. What do you think, John? Because I don't mind him doing it, but I probably agree it's a bit excessive and there's probably not really a need for it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it as long as I think, like you said, the previous player, and I'm sure he did this at Dortmund as well. He used to have it either in his shorts or in his sock or something like that. I don't know if it's the mask is thicker or something, and he just didn't do it, or I don't know, Arsenal the Puma shorts are different now or something. If you could do it like that, then maybe. Because if people were going to complain about, I know VAR is different and it takes a lot longer. But he was looking for that bag for quite a while before he even started celebrating. And it's a little bit weird because like the stadium's obviously like really jumping about and all the players are celebrating. And then you've got Aubameyang like looking behind the advertising boardings up and down for that bag with the mask in. So yeah, look, if that's the rule, the players know that. It's hopefully it doesn't come back to bite him, like you say. But yeah, I just thought the referee on the night, other than that decision, really was a little bit weak. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the mask again as long as it doesn't affect us in any way on the pitch. But yeah, that kind of was the Rennes game. 3-0 we're through. We should also say, was that Maitland-Niles' first goal for Arsenal, or was it his first European goal? I can't remember.
Didn't he score at the far? Wasn't it the first goal against Man United?
His first Emirates goal. He scored in that 5-1 mauling at Anfield earlier on this year.
Oh yes, that was the one. Yeah,
first goal at the Emirates.
Yeah, first goal at the Emirates, first goal in Europe. So well done, Maitland-Niles, and also for a guy who, I think to be fair, in the Man United game, second half he was really good, but first half he really struggled. And I know Rennes are not the same level of opposition, but I thought he looked much better in that game. He took his goal really well as well.
Do we think that's his position, by the way, just on him? Do we think that he should be a right wing back, or do some of us still think he's maybe a centre mid?
Right wing. I
don't know if he's I think wing back is okay for him. I still think defensively he's a little bit suspect, but the thing with him is I could see him playing as a centre mid, but it would have to be in a system where you actually played, like old school centre mids. That this might be a foreign idea to some people, but centre mids used to actually defend on the edge of their box and go to the other box and score goals as well. That's not really a thing anymore. If you're a central midfielder, you're a defensive one, or you're an attacking one, or you're box to box, but you don't score goals. It's really weird how it's become so defined now, and not just the centre mid was the all rounder who could do everything. Because I think he's got that.
Go on.
I think Maitland-Niles has got that ability in his locker. It's just whether he gets the opportunity to play there and develop. So I think he possibly needs to be a little bit bigger, like bulk up physically. But again, that's just an age thing, I think.
His route to that kind of position is a little bit blocked as well. I think his best option is being under that Welbeck replacement. He'll get you in a higher position. He'll get probably 5-7 goals a season. He can block up a wing as well, because he's not going to get in ahead of Bellerin.
Then we've got Reece Nelson coming back next season, who's going to play on that probably play on that right, that left.
I don't think Reece Nelson. If we make the Champions League, Reece Nelson is not going to be at the club next season.
I think he'll get loaned out again.
It's not for us yet.
The thing I would say with him, and I agree with that, Josh, is that if you look at the other young players, you've got Joe Willock, who looks like a centre mid already.
Yeah.
Whereas Maitland-Niles necessarily doesn't. And I think for him, like I've heard Arsborg and other people talk about it, just take the opportunity and just play as much as you can. And if he ends up a bit higher up the pitch as like a wide man or some sort of utility player, I think that's fine. His football intelligence, for the most part, seems there. Again, I still think he's a little bit lax in positionally, but it's learning a position. But some players have made amazing careers out of being, utility players. I mean, you look at James Milner and what he's done in his career. That guy's played everywhere but in goal, probably.
Yeah, and while he's still got the recovery pace, being out of position is less of an issue.
Yeah.
If he was as quick as Per Mertesacker and was never in the right place, we'd have a problem.
I think his future is going to be a Theo Walcott kind of role, someone who can play down the wing and occasionally maybe drop in to play off of a striker. They will utilise his pace the whole of his career until he gets to about 30, gets flogged to Everton. Everton bring through a young man who takes over his place, and then he ends up buggering off to somewhere else like the MLS. There you go. If you're listening, Ashley, that's for you, son.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh.
Are there any players you're going to steal from Rennes?
I dread to think if anyone is listening to this podcast for the first time, first of all, thank you. I'm not sure why you are. But secondly, Danny does know the name of our players. He just says them wrong on purpose. Is there anyone we're going to steal from Rennes?
I wouldn't mind Ismail and Sarr, the winger who played. He was good in the first game. But, I don't know if he looked great because he was. I don't know if he looked great because he was playing against Nacho Monreal, who looked like he was running in treacle for the whole night. But he was a bit missing in the home game. But he's the only one who's looked a little.
I watched him.
Take from him.
He's really quick, but sometimes his first touch, goes out for a goal kick.
And I mean, the people that were calling for Sarr to join us are the same people that want Adama Traoré to join us. He's rapid on FIFA, and he's rapid in real life, but he's got no end product.
I thought the better player was the French kid on the other side, the one who scored the goal in the first game. Borussia.
Yeah.
Borussia Guard.
He looked like much more technically accomplished than Sarr did. Didn't have the same pace, but he could still beat players.
Beauregard. Ben.
I'm sure Chris will like that because he's a French kid. So there you go. But other than that, I didn't think, like Grenier is decent, but I didn't think anything else to the rest of their team, to be honest. Ben Arthur was his usual self. Like, he turns it on when he can be bothered, which is not a lot. Yeah. But that got us through, and we had the draw for the Europa League, and we got the one team that a certain member of ABW didn't want to get.
Chris said it's going to be all right. Napoli aren't all that.
We drew Napoli. So what is everyone's reaction on that first? Simon, what did you make to the draw?
Yes, probably. I'm trying to think if I would have preferred Chelsea or Napoli. I think the thing with us is, as we've shown in the knockout stages, we're seemingly not great away from home in Europe, and Napoli is probably one of the worst places to go and play away from home in Europe. So that's going to be really, really tough. I fancy us against home against literally anyone. I think we're really, really good home side, but going there is going to be really, really tough. I mean, I know they're not the Napoli they were under Sarri or a few seasons ago, and John, you're probably the best to let us know what we're in for. But for me, just purely when I look at the other teams in the hat and who we could have got, I think, they're probably my least favourite team to have got. Other than, I still think Chelsea, though, I think, because the problem is when you draw an English team like Spurs have drawn Man City in the Champions League, and you're playing them twice, but there's away goals, it makes it really tough, because away goals when you're both playing in England are redundant, really. So probably Chelsea would have been slightly worse, and the fact we haven't got them to the final is a slight bonus. But for me, Napoli away is going to be really, really tough, and that'll be a proper marker of how good Emery has made this team if they can get a result there.
Yeah, should just say that they do this with the Champions League now as well, where you get the draw and your way to the final. So if we beat Napoli, we will play one of either Villarreal or Valencia. And the other side of the draw, you've got Chelsea, Slavia Prague, Benfica, and Eintracht Frankfurt, who beat Inter Milan. Anyway, enough about that. Josh, what did you make to the Napoli draw?
As Simon said, it's probably the hardest team we could have ended up with. I think it was left in the draw. I think the way that Chelsea are playing at the moment, to be honest, and watching the Slavia Prague game as well, and them knocking out Sevilla, that's not necessarily an easy game that looks on paper, especially if Sarri is going to continue not being able to get a tune out of this team. But Napoli, this team dropped out of the Champions League, and we're singing and harping on about how we should be playing in the Champions League. This is the kind of bread and butter team we should be beating in the group stage. They finished third in their group, which had Liverpool in it, and who else was in Liverpool's group? Top of my head.
PSG, wasn't it? PSG?
Yeah.
Was it PSG?
Yeah, PSG, yeah.
So I think, we'd be expecting to finish second in that group as well. So this is the kind of team that we should have been beating even now. So I'm not too worried about getting them. I think.
Would we really expect to get through that group?
I think if you switch us out for Liverpool, PSG, Napoli.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Olympiacos, I think.
Krasnodar.
Belgrade. Didn't we play them in Europa last season?
Yes, yeah.
17-0.
Yeah. If you swap us for Liverpool, then I guess you'd expect us to finish above Napoli. I don't think you'd expect us to finish above PSG. But
well, last time we were in the Champions League, we did, didn't we?
I was saying that PSG are massive bottlers. Sorry.
Yeah. So we are also at the home for the first leg, aren't we? Because they had to switch our ties.
Yes, we are home first leg,
which works out really well from us.
That's good, I think,
for a league perspective as well. Because that means, because I looked it up, Chelsea have to fly out to Prague or fly back from Prague Thursday or Friday evening, and then they go to Anfield that weekend.
Mm.
So that really helps us for our push for the top 4 as well. Not necessarily who we want to win the league, but in terms of,
I think I'd rather play at home first. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
I just think I think we'd be better at. Because we have this debate every year more we're in the Champions League, don't we, about better being home or away first. But I always think with us, we're better trying to build a lead at home than going somewhere where I always think we're susceptible of getting stuffed away from home. Whereas I don't think this team would get turned over at home by Napoli, which means we'll have something to take there and defend.
Fair enough.
I mean, how good are Napoli, John? How good are they?
I mean,
compared to the Napoli of.
They're still a really good team. I mean, they're second in Serie A for a reason. You know, I know everyone say, well, you know, Juventus are, I think they're 15 points. I'm just checking. Yeah, 15 points clear. Look, Juventus are an absolute monster. And, I mean, people saw what they did to Atletico Madrid. They're no joke. They're a little bit more pragmatic under Ancelotti, as you'd expect. They can still do the very pretty football and passing it around and stuff. Hamsik's gone now. Which, despite his age, he was still a really, really good player. But they've got Unas and the Spanish guy, Fabian Ruiz, who've played quite a lot this season, who've been really, really good. Insigne and Milik are still having a really good season. Mertens hasn't got as many goals this season, but still, I think he's 9 or 10 goals still this season. So
is that the one they converted from midfielder when Sarri was there?
Yeah, he was like the wide player. Milik got injured, and they had no other striker, and they had to play him through the middle. And he scored like nearly 30 goals, I think, in one season.
They've got Koulibaly though, haven't they? How good's he?
They have got Koulibaly. Yeah, I mean, again, I would say they're. It's hard to judge because they're not massively changed. Like Ancelotti, when he comes into a club, he doesn't really shake things up too much. I'm sure everyone will know from any time he's taken over a team and they've seen him, but because he's more of a man manager than like all the tactics and stuff. They are defensively, I feel, a little bit more solid. They obviously lost Jorginho, which was a big loss, but it didn't affect them too much in terms of the way they play. So there's still going to be a threat, but like Simon, I would expect us to win the home leg, or, you know, put in a proper performance. It's the away leg that terrifies me, like genuinely. Because, I mean, Insigne can have one of those games where he turns it on. Milik is a serious threat. He's a very, very good striker. And if they get the service to him, he's really hard to stop. And they've got, talented midfielders. They've got Zielinski, Fabian Ruiz, Unas, Alan, who is the... Alan is the Conte of their team, if you will, if you want to use the Sarri... comparison for what he's got at Chelsea now. And obviously they've got Dave the Bins, although he won't be eligible to play, I don't think.
No, he can. He can play, but
he can play. Okay.
He's not their cup keeper, so it doesn't matter.
It's,
anyway, Merritt's their.
It's Merritt, isn't it? Yeah,
Merritt's their cup keeper, so Dave Bins will be on the bench anyway.
Probably rather a Spina play, to be honest. But.
Well, he's got a pretty bad case of concussion at the moment, so he can only help us.
He's okay actually from that. Anyone who saw that nasty knock he got, I don't know why they didn't take him off. That was ridiculous, but yeah, I don't know. I'm confident about the home leg. It's just the away leg is the one that scares me. But if we get a good enough result and keep a clean sheet, that's the big thing, because Napoli can score a lot of goals. They've got it in them to do that still. So, but I find it exciting because it feels like a proper European tie. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't mind the Europa League. I know people like kind of shit on it a little bit, but sometimes you get really good games in it, and it doesn't feel like we've had one up until now.
This is when it gets good. This is when the Europa League gets good.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get lucky and you get like a decent, exciting group, or you get like an exciting last round of 32.
I mean, the group is basically just a load of stag do destinations. It's not fucking.
So does the rule with this apply that we play better when teams come to play football? Are they a footballing side?
Yeah, they definitely
allow us to play.
They're not going to be a team that's going to sit there and defend. I mean, Ancelotti obviously does have pragmatism and won't go like balls out to try and attack us, but they will move high up the pitch, and they will leave space behind. Their fullbacks push on. They've got the French guy Malqui on the right now, He's pretty good. They've still got Gulam and Hisai. Hisai can play left or right. So, their fullbacks do push on, so they do leave space in behind. As you said, they have got Koulibaly at the back. So people can see how good he is, because I know they all want to sign him, but they've probably never watched him.
He's great in Europe as well. That's the only other concern. I mean, he's pretty good at getting through European ties. Yeah,
that's true. He's got the experience for it. And Napoli are, they are a Champions League team. So I'm just excited that it's a proper game and it's not going to be a boring one, because every time we do a radio show for the Europa League, it's been really bad. Because other than the Rennes game, because there really hasn't been anything to talk about.
The only thing I worry about is the fact that we have seen from Emery quite a lot that he will take a gamble on the first game, hoping to correct it if anything goes wrong in the second game. We're not going to be able to correct it in the second game. We need to get it done in the first game right first time. I
think just because we're at home, like normally I don't really care about the home or away thing, but just because we are so like Jekyll and Hyde in terms of our home and away form, particularly in Europe, and we're so much better at home that I think we'll be fine. And by the looks of it, he likes to have quite an attacking team at home as well.
So fixtures either side of that, we play Everton on the Sunday, then it's the home leg on the Thursday. Then we don't play again till the Monday. We play Watford away. Not that that's really an away fixture, bearing in mind we share training grounds.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I think the fixtures around it have fallen really nicely. Do you think how many times we've been in the round of 16 in the Champions League and it's been like, oh, we've got to play Bayern Munich, and by the way, either side of those games, you've got Man City, Man United, then Liverpool or something horrible like that. It seemed to be every year, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it's certainly fallen a lot more favourite.
And now it's Everton, Watford, Crystal Palace.
Yeah, just
Watford could easily be thinking about an FA Cup final then as well. So
yeah, exactly,
quite possibly.
So yeah, I'm quietly confident. I just hope we get it, get the right result in the home leg.
They've lost 1 in 33 of their last games at home, and the majority of those times they've not conceded a goal. They conceded a couple against Bologna, 2 against Juventus, 2 against Udinese, but the majority of them, they're not letting any in. Roma did spank them 4-2 though, so that's something we've got to look at.
Yeah, but Roma always have that one game of the season where they play really well and then they get beat 7-1 by Fiorentina.
So I think we're all agreed, aren't we? We've got to get it done first leg and then play all the defenders in the away leg and just concede less.
Yeah. Just a quick question then before we wrap up the Europa League bit. Do we all want Chelsea in the final?
Oh, imagine that. That's what Arsblog was saying, wasn't it? Cech's last game was a penalty shootout against Chelsea. The Europa League final. After Giroud scoring a hat-trick after Chelsea being 3-0 up. We get it back to 3-3 and then penalties. Good God.
And Chelsea's last penalty has been taken by Hazard. He's got to score it to keep him in the competition. And he goes for a Panenka and Cech just headers it back at him straight in the nuts. Yeah? We'll take that.
Oh, yeah, imagine it. That'd probably be a 0-0 and all be bored to death. No, I don't want Chelsea in the final. I can handle losing a European Cup final to any team other than an English team. I mean, I don't want to lose, but if we forget, I mean, Real Zaragoza, I mean, where are they now? No one gives a damn about those. Who's the other team? Barcelona. Never. Don't know what they're up to now. So yeah, anyone but Chelsea.
Fair enough. Josh, any preference?
I don't really mind. To be honest, when the draw was being made, the kind of 2 teams that I fancied us just for pure interest and some might say hipsternish in me would have been Benfica or Eintracht. I'd have liked to have seen them come to the Emirates. But yeah, if we end up with either of those 2 from that side of the draw, I still think there's something about what Chelsea do in the Europa League as well. And their form at the moment is not great at all. Yeah. And they've got some pretty difficult fixtures coming up. Losing to Everton at the weekend as well means that they're going to have to start pushing the league heavily and they're just going to end up getting fatigued. And that semi-final might be the undoing for them.
Good point. Simon, any preference for if we get to the final? Obviously, guessing ahead.
I'd always prefer. Personally, I'd prefer to be playing Chelsea in a one-off game than over 2 legs. So, if we were going to get them at any point, I think the final was the best moment to get them. But I'd rather have someone else on that side of the draw. I don't know masses about the other teams on there. I've got to admit, Eintracht Frankfurt, from the highlights I've seen of them, look like a pretty decent side, and that kid Jovic doesn't look too half bad. So wouldn't particularly like them, judging as well by the fact they look like they can, set up and make themselves difficult to beat. So if we were going to play Chelsea, the final's the best time to play them, but I think there's easier sides we could get. But I'm just glad they're not our quarter-final or semi-final opponent, to be honest.
Yeah.
There is a good point to raise at this point as well, that the only upside of getting Chelsea is that our league campaign ends 2 weeks before the final. I think every other European league will be playing football up until that point. So we'll be a little bit, lacking in game sharpness, shall we say, after 2 weeks off.
Yeah. That is a good point. I don't know. I mean, I'd like Chelsea just to be able to beat them in the final, but then I'd be petrified the whole way up to it if we did end up getting them. And yeah, my arsehole will be going 5p, 20p the whole day, I'm sure. Equally, though, if we got someone like Eintracht Frankfurt, I'd probably think most of the time I'd be like, yeah, we'll beat them. And then remember, as Simon said, they've got Jovic up front, that kid who apparently every club in the world was scouting during the game between them and Inter Milan the other night. I think there was every club other than us was there. Because we don't have a technical director and head of scouting, possibly, which is a really good segue, which I didn't even mean to do. So we'll leave the football for there for a minute. And we're just going to talk briefly about the non-appointment of Mr. Monchi. Danny, Mr. Monchi, he say no. He's going back home. He doesn't want to come to Arsenal. Is it a disaster? What's happening?
Well, in the fabled ABW WhatsApp group, someone went, who is Monchi? And I got the 4 ghosts out of Pac-Man, and I said, I think he's the orange one. That's as much as I know about Monchi. All I know is he has a nice line in sunglasses, and he reminds me a little bit of Mems off of Twitter. That's it. Other than that, I've got no idea. I don't even know what their job is. I can barely remember the name of the bloke who last did it. Is it a kind of David Dean role?
In a sense, it is. The only clubs in the Premier League that have visibly had one. You've got Iwa Wuwa at Man United, old Ed Woodward. It used to be what's his name, David Gill, I think. Before, so maybe someone will correct me. Who then went to Chelsea. Who was the other guy? Kamoli was the other famous one who was at Liverpool. Was he at Spurs as well? Maybe.
Yeah. Liverpool have got a decent one now. Michael Edwards at Liverpool.
So is it something that not all clubs have then?
It's very very typical of continental clubs. It's pretty standard. It has been for years, a long time there. But in England, it's not really the sort of done thing. The manager always picks the players.
Pick the player.
Leicester have got one as well.
Someone has answered the question. That's the question. Someone's answered the Leicester one, so don't give it away. So, I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit I've got no idea what the director of football does. I thought every club had one.
No, so they essentially will buy the player. So a manager will still say, I quite like the look of this player. Or if they don't say a specific player, they might say, I really need a midfielder who can do this or something like that. And if they haven't got a player in mind, then Sven, who was there briefly, would go out to go and get that kind of player. Or if we had got Monchi, he would have been the one to do that. But also they generally have a long-term plan in terms of the squad, in terms of building it for the next, however many years. And some of the directors may even have just sort of indirectly through the players that they purchase an impact on the style of football you will play just because of the players they get.
So all those years we used to moan that Wenger would go and scout the player, meet the player, shake their hands, sign the deal, do the contract. All that's taken out of the manager's hands. All the manager goes is, I want player A or I want to play in the style of A. Go get it and then let me know when he's here.
Essentially, Emery is our first coach. That in Europe, you're a head coach than you are a manager. Yeah.
To be honest, the best example in England is probably the club who are actually one of the clubs that I actually properly cover is Watford, who are a full-on. I mean, they've been doing it ever since the Pozzos come in, probably because the Pozzos are Italian, so it's quite normal. They have Filippo Giraldi, who is the technical director. They've got a sporting director, who's Andy Scott. They've then got a chief scout, and they basically Gracia. I mean, has well, a say in the players, but very, very, very small amount. I mean, he will say we need a left back, but the club. That's why Gracia's got such long contracts and why he's so light there, because he properly fits into the mould. Marco Silva didn't really want to do that, but Watford basically have it with a system where the manager gets one player. The new manager every summer will get one player that he wants. So Marco Silva chose Andre Carrillo, who was at Sporting Lisbon, was his one signing. And then he got pissed off because he wanted Samani and he wasn't allowed 2 signings, he only gets 1. So they will have it where the technical director will meet with, they've got about 8 scouts who are all over the world. And then those scouts have freelancers. Every 3 months they meet and say, here's the target, here's the target. So 2 years ago, it'd be like, we've discovered this player called Richarlison. Right, okay, let's bring him in. And the coach is just a coach. To the extent where, Gracia, you can look at it with when he played Ben Wilmot on a Wednesday night against Spurs, and the next day he got loaned to Udinese.
Yeah.
Because he's not really part of the transfer panel. Now I'm talking a lot about Watford here, but Arsenal's, I don't think it sounds like it will be as extreme as that. And we've seen that by the fact that they were going to get Monchi in, who has a relationship with Emery.
Yeah.
So that Arsenal's won't be extreme where Emery's had nothing. Emery will be a say in it, not so, lower down the chain as Gracia is, but there will no longer be a situation where it is Unai Emery buying the players. He will be one of probably 3 or 4 people, which will include Raul Sanllehi, the new technical director, and some form of chief scout, which will probably be someone like Francis Caggio, who was the guy who found Fabregas. But the reason why Sven got pissed off is because he was not going to be considered for the technical director role, and he was essentially a chief scout. And why the fuck would he come to Arsenal be a chief scout when he could just do that at Dortmund? So.
So for people who don't know, I'm sure they do know now, but Monchi is sort of famous for his time at Sevilla. He found a lot of Brazilian players. Baptista, who obviously was an Arsenal player for a while. Dani Alves was probably his biggest earner. It was a lot of players who they'd get in for a little amount of money, who did improve the team, help them win things, and they could sell on for a huge, huge profit. I think there was some stat about it was over 160 odd million or something that he earned the club over a small number of years.
We don't want that though. We don't want our best players to be sold for a fortune. We want them to stay forever. We've had enough of that. We're moving on.
Yeah, but we are you don't necessarily have to do the selling players on for huge amounts of money part of it, but I do think we have to look at the transfer market differently, because you're not going to be able to go out and buy, Kylian Mbappe when some clubs are willing to spend 200 million on him. So you have to find an alternative who is a lot cheaper. And I think that's why Monchi was looked at. And obviously because it hadn't quite worked out for him at Roma, although I don't think he actually did a bad job. I think that's more down to the manager than his fault. Who was somebody else? He found Kondogbia, Krychowiak, Carlos Bacca.
Rakitic.
Rakitic.
Sevilla.
Paolo One Chop, wasn't he over there?
Freddie Canute.
Canute, that's the West Ham striker I was thinking of.
Yeah. He's very impressive, resume. But he's turned it down, gone back to Sevilla. It's weird because it's not like it's this player has said no. It's a technical director, but people have reacted. Some people have reacted quite angry. Others have reacted as, why should I care?
That's Jason. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, which I do kind of get, because it's it's not like it's a sexy position or something. It's like, oh great, you bought a new secretary or something. It doesn't fill you with joy and excitement. You can go down the pub and tell your mates going, oh fucking hell, check out our new technical director.
Has his resume gone a bit shit since Roma? Did he do a good job at Roma? Or because I saw a lot of people giving him heat for the players he bought there.
No, I think it was Cech. He got he mugged off Inter big time. The young, no surprise there. When Inter Milan bought Nainggolan, they managed to get, as part of the deal, Roma, not just money, but they also got the young guy Zaniolo as well, who's sort of been the breakout star for Roma this year. So he's not like he's bought in bad players or anything.
He's also got Kluivert as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he got Kluivert in as well.
But I think when you look at the players, sorry, George, but that he's brought in, these players you didn't expect to hit the ground running at Roma.
Yeah, no,
necessarily. And I think the same, you look at Sevilla, these players like Rakitic, he didn't buy him in for 2 seasons and then sell him for 60 odd million to Barcelona. He was there for like 4 or 5 years. So I think it's almost sort of judge him not in May, but almost in 2 seasons' time. Look at what the guys he brought in are now doing for Roma.
Yeah,
because he's not the one setting up the teams. He's just giving the manager the tools to then make these players successful.
Yeah, I don't think Roma are necessarily underachieving for their squad or the position or anything, or the players that he's brought in. And, they've only got X amount of money. So I think everyone he brought in, they're all talented and they're all going to be, they look like they're all going to be good players if they're, coached the right way and stuff. They'll make the money.
He was at Sevilla for 17 years, it says on
Yeah, he was a player there, wasn't he?
Yeah. He started off as a player he joined them in 1990. And then in 2000, he became director of football until 2017. So how do you reckon Roma feel about that? The fact that they've obviously, if it is, as you say, that he's meant to kind of warmly guide the direction of the transfers, the style of play and the players, that Roma have done that. Will Roma look at that as 18 months wasted, or will they just be rubbing around thinking we got rid of that nutcase Nangalang?
I think Roma will probably be looking at the manager will possibly be looking at it, and maybe the board will be looking at it as a case of thank fuck we've thrown someone else under the bus for mistakes that have been there, with the club for a longer time than Monchi. But apparently he didn't like the pressure there, so I don't think that would have, he wouldn't have dealt well at Arsenal if he couldn't take the pressure at Roma, because the scrutiny you get from Arsenal fans for any signings and stuff, I'm sure would be ridiculous. And the thing I'm more interested about is, Danny, obviously you didn't know anything really about what the job is or the role or anything, or particularly anything about the guy. Do you care who the technical director is? Do you think it says a bad thing about the club that we can't get someone? Because he's like widely regarded as like one of the best in the world, essentially, at that job, and the fact that he did turn us down.
I would look to what the sort of things that you and Chris and Simon and Josh say. I'd listen to what you say when it comes to. He was also a goalkeeper at Sevilla. Didn't know that 85 games he played for them. I think it's important that you get the right person in the right place. But for us being English football fans, this is a whole new regime that we're going through. I forgot that in Europe you're seen as a first team coach, not the manager. You're not the manager of everything. Everything is oh God, and he said what is it? Where everyone's all the departmentalized. I need to sit down after getting that word out. I'm struggling there, listener. Sorry. Yeah, everything's given out to all people to do the individual areas. So I suppose we used to moan that Wenger did everything, had his finger in every pie, and all those pies are all falling apart one by one. But this way, you do that pie, you do that pie, you do that pie, and if you fuck up your pie, someone's going to come in and put their finger in your pie. Oh no! Oh my damn! Yeah, but I wasn't overly aware. And unlike most of Twitter, I don't mind admitting I didn't really know. But it makes sense, and I think it's a better idea to departmentalise everything in football.
Before I go to Simon, Danny, just to make you feel better, the Pac-Man characters are called Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. Anyway,
so the orange one that is always looking out of his mouth open, that's the one I said was Monchi, because he looks like he's a muncher.
Although in Japan they're called Fickle, Chaser, Ambusher, and Stupid. So there you go. Simon, as a man from the world of journalism, please steer this back to football talk. who knows a bit more about these sort of things? And obviously you mentioned Watford. What do Arsenal do now? Because the longer this goes on without this position being filled, surely this affects our transfer targets and who we're going for. Or is that why he hasn't taken the job, because they're already in place?
Yeah, well, this is the interesting thing. Reading today what James Ollie wrote, who's much better connected than me and knows much more about what's going on at Arsenal than I do. The club seem very relaxed about it, and not too concerned about getting someone in frantically, because from what he's intimated and what he understands, club sort of know what they're going to do transfer-wise. They know they've got around £40 million to spend if they don't get in the Champions League, plus whatever they make from player sales. They know they want to get a new centre-back in, and they've already identified targets. So that was apparently part of the thing that put Monchi off, is that, you know, the club had already looked at who they've got. And I think we know that, you know, Sanyeli and is not sitting there doing, oh God, or just, I better wait until we get someone in. The same with Emery, because they pushed ahead with getting Suarez in January, which was a player that Sven clearly didn't want to get in, seeing as he left very soon after. So Emery will already have an idea about what players he wants to get in. Sanyeli too, and part of the reason why Sanyeli got his position was his contact book, you know, dealing with agents, which is something we weren't great at because Wenger didn't deal with certain agents. You know, he didn't deal with Mino Raiola, other than the Sanchez and Mkhitaryan deal. He's never dealt with George Mendes. So I think the club will already be looking at players, but the hope here is that this is a long-term appointment. This is someone that we need to get in, you know, by the end of March, by the end of April. Otherwise, we're going to be clueless in the transfer window. I think that's undervaluing the fact that the structure the club are trying to make is where everyone's a part of it and it doesn't collapse when someone's not there, like when Wenger left. So they'll obviously be looking at players and getting people in, but who they get in now is going to be the difficult one. And it doesn't sound like, whether that's the club briefing because Mark Overmars has signed a new deal, but it doesn't sound like he was ever that high on the list. But I would think it would be someone who has a good relationship with Emery, or at least the club, because Monchi obviously had that with Emery and Overmars had that. So who they go for remains to be seen. But I'm at a loss at the moment to think who they could get off the top of my head, which is perhaps why they're saying they're so relaxed about it.
Okay, well, lastly on this, Josh, you're our resident hipster. So who can Arsenal get as a technical director of football? What names can you pluck from around Europe that no one's ever heard of?
Oh God!
just to put you on the spotlight.
Yeah, because as we've gone on and said, it's not a position that gets a huge amount of praise. I mean, or even recognition. Sven wasn't a technical director; he was just a chief scout.
Yeah,
she's the only well-known one there. You know, Nedved at Juve, he's technical director there, isn't he? Not that we'll ever get him.
But I think he is now. It was see, because I was trying to think before I answer this question. I'll admit, listeners, I put Josh on the spot there because I couldn't think of one.
I've got one, but I can't think where he is at the moment. Steve Walsh, who was ex-Saints. I think he might be at Spurs.
Yeah, the one I was thinking of, who is currently
was Walsh the one who was at Leicester?
I think he was.
Maybe,
yeah.
Sorry, he was the one at Leicester. Where is he at the moment?
But he was at Everton, but I think he had a.
Yeah,
Everton have obviously got the old PSV guy, Marcel Brands. The one who I would want, if I could pick anyone, don't think you could get him though, would be Michael Emenalo, who was at Chelsea for all those years, and they've gone a bit to shit without him. I think he's still at Monaco, but he would be probably my pick, just given his track record as a negotiator and also finding young players. More for Chelsea to loan out, but he had quite a good knack of doing that, and he was just a good negotiator, which I probably think we need more than a talent spotter. I think we need someone. Given we haven't got massive money, we need someone who's going to be a good negotiator. That would be my pick, but I don't think he's feasible.
The only guy I could think of who did change job last summer was Beppe Marotta, who was at Juventus, who sort of famously signed. Like Khedira, Pirlo, Pogba.
Did he get Pogba as well?
Yeah, he's like the list of 3 players that signed.
He's that sort of fixer type, which I think would be good. Maybe that's too so similar to Sanyeli. I don't know.
Yeah, he's taken the job at Inter. He's CEO at Inter now, and he was at Juventus as well. But he was, as much as he was given the title of CEO, he was kind of the fixer. He'd get those players, he'd get them in and get the deals done. Whether he'd walk out on Inter, I've got no idea. And the thing is, like you said, he sounds, just from his age and his profile and everything, too similar to Sanyeli. So, yeah, I really can't think of anyone. But it's just a weird thing that, you know, the club knew that Sven was going for quite a while before he'd even left. You know, and the Monchi talk started quite early on, and then it all fell through because it looked like it was a done deal at one point.
I think from
Go on,
Sorry,
Josh.
I was going to say that I think it was just a case that Monchi turned down a better deal because, from all accounts, we'd given, we said we were going to pay you a lot more than anyone else, and he just didn't fancy it. Now, whether or not that's down to the fact that when he left Roma, it was in a row with fans as well. Yeah. And you've seen how tempestuous our fan base can be.
Yeah, so it'll be, I mean, I guess the tester will be this summer when we do try and sign players and see who turns up at the club and what the kind of approach is. Because even if you got a guy in now to take that position of technical director, that's not a long enough period to assess the players and the squad and the direction of the club and everything, identify targets, which ones are actually available, and then go and try and get them in that short window. So, I think whoever comes in now will have to accept that they've got to go along with whatever the established targets already are.
There is one.
It's not easy as well. I mean, I'll say Chelsea haven't even replaced Emery from when he left. Yeah. So it's not an easy position to hire, and there's a reason not every club has one, because they're difficult to find and they're difficult to get a good one, I think. So I think it's right that the club's not rushing. I don't think we're all sat on Twitter going, "Oh, we need a technical director." I don't think
the fact that people know who Monchi is makes him the easy pick. I think that's sort of what has come out of this, because like we were just saying, I can't think of too many others. Like, there isn't a ton that just spring to mind.
Edu, we were linked to him, weren't we? He's currently the.
He didn't. He doesn't want to leave Brazil.
He didn't leave Brazil.
That's to do with him being in Brazil.
I didn't understand. We'll go to listeners' questions in a minute, but I didn't understand the Overmars link either, to be perfectly honest, because I look at Ajax. They haven't won the league for a few years. I know they're obviously doing brilliant in the Champions League this year, but so many of their players are all really, really young, and it's all about their development and the coaching and stuff. And I think it's more the coaching approach at Ajax that's got that talented group together than necessarily.
That's ingrained into the Dutch way of.
Yeah, so I'm not sure quite why Overmars was spoken about, other than the fact that he'd played for Arsenal. But
it's also quite a set, like the Ajax way and everything they do.
Yeah,
there's a reason why it's a load of ex-Ajax players who work there, because it's a really niche and set way of doing things. Like, it's a reason why Van der Sar's the CEO. It's a reason why Bergkamp's a coach there. Like, it's so much different to any other club that I don't think it would necessarily your skills would transfer someone else. So I think that was perhaps a case of people thinking, they went for Edu, they want an ex-Arsenal player. So. But Ray Parler's probably going to be free off TalkSport, so maybe get him in. But
didn't he sack Bergkamp though a couple of years ago?
Or Gilberto, someone like that. Gilberto, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Frenchman that's not doing a lot other than the odd appearance on BN Sports.
Oh God!
Oh no! Don't.
The return. Merci, bonjour, Arsène, or something.
Yeah.
I really hoped you were going to say bonjour Flamini for a second. Then
I think he's going to turn up in a Black Panther mask and just reveal himself.
I tell you what, someone like Vieira before he went into management would have been someone I could see being like a technical director. Like, he's just got that aura about him.
While we're on Frenchman, the guy that keeps turning up to our training ground, and you're like, what are you doing? You don't play for us anymore. You to Villa.
Oh yeah,
the beautiful Bobby. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of it for our Monchi talk. Because we don't really know all that much that's going on. But we have got some listener questions. So Josh, would you like to fire away with the listener questions? Because Danny has handily put them in the chat like a pro.
He has indeed, and I'm going to go against all systems. And I'm not going to go in the order that they're there, but because I want to pick James Howson's question. And because it's with both...
You'll end up asking some of the questions twice if you're going to forget which ones you haven't done.
Ye of little faith, Danny. Ye of little faith. James Howson, with both Monchi and Overmars rejecting Arsenal for the director of football for the club, are we no longer a big enough deal to attract people? Danny.
Going by what you lot have said, I don't think the people who run the club have had to deal with getting this kind of person to do this job previously, which is why they're struggling to do it now. And going by what you said before, the people that we did have kind of doing this job weren't even meant to do this job. So Yeah, I think it's trying to learn, trying to bake a cake, having never baked a cake before. We're living as we're learning, or the other way around. God, I've done it again.
Thanks, Tony. Your cliche will, a thing of beauty.
I'm gonna write all them down and publish them.
Absolutely. John, I'll give the next one to you. It's from Mike Hertz. Is that Danny? Is that Mike from the Gooners pod?
I've put little stuff in brackets here.
There's no relation to Kilohertz. Was he one that had robots from Robot Wars?
No, that's Mike Feinberg. So this is Mike Hertz. No, he's a regular listener questioner though. Sorry to John. Arsenal legends seem to be more harsh on their opinions of the Arsenal than other legends of their respective teams. Why do you believe that is?
I'm not sure they are more harsh, to be honest. You might think that because as a fan, anything that is said as a negative about the club, you take a little bit more personally. I know I do. And I know, the majority of the guys on ABW do as well. Look, Paul Merson is an idiot. I don't think any football fan, regardless of whether Arsenal or not, respects his opinion on many things. I think Lee Dixon, for what it's worth, is very balanced and fair. I think he's critical of all teams to the same level, whether it's Arsenal or not. I think, maybe if you're an ex-player of a club or got a big affinity to a certain club in particular, you might be a little bit more critical of them just so people don't get on your back and accuse you of being biased. And that probably does play on their minds a little bit when they're talking about Arsenal. And I'm sure it's something that probably goes through Gary Neville's head every time he's talking about Man United on Sky and stuff like that. So I'm not sure it's necessarily a truism, and it's kind of one of those things where you get, because as a fan, we're all a little bit blinkered and we don't look outside of our own comfort zone. And whenever we talk about another club or another club is being spoken about, we don't view it in the same sort of light.
Yeah, Simon, as the man in the media, do you have any additional insight on this?
I think, part of the issue is that there's a lot of Arsenal pundits, and a lot of the media want to get their opinion on things. But I don't think they're necessarily more harsh. And I think sometimes why it might appear they're more harsh, or where they sometimes might have come across as being quite strong against Arsenal, is because I think with someone like Ian Wright's probably a good example, where he sort of cares so much about the club, and he obviously so clearly loves and supports the club that he doesn't want to be, a cheerleader for the club. Partly because no one's going to give him a job in the media if he does that, but also because he needs to try and have a degree of impartiality. So I think that's why he sometimes veers the other way. But I don't think they're any more harsh than any of the others. I think it's just us as Arsenal fans, we pick up on it more, as John says, because if someone makes a slight dig at it's picked up on. And certainly with Arsenal, because they generate so many clicks, so many hits, if someone goes on Five Live like Ian Wright or Martin Keown and, has a massive go at Mesut Ozil, every newspaper website and every, general sporting website will pick up on those comments because it will generate loads of traffic because it's Arsenal. Whereas if it was, no offence intended, but a Huddersfield pundit, no one's really going to care. It's Arsenal and a lot of people care and a lot of people will read it. So that's probably why you notice it more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not going to pay attention to news about Man United or Liverpool or something like that necessarily, but if you go and look at some of the things like Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, Rio Ferdinand has said about Man United, they're properly scathing sometimes about individual players, performances, the manager's decisions, stuff like that. But it doesn't affect us in the same way because we can, give a toss. It's Man United, it's not Arsenal.
Neville annihilated Mourinho in those sort of final days of Mourinho. Absolutely, I think it was on Sky Sports or one of those, but it was a rant for 2 minutes or so where he absolutely just went for him. So it does happen elsewhere.
Yeah, Neville's an interesting one on that because he kind of skirts around certain issues because he's closer to the club than perhaps others. Certainly around Ed Woodward. We've seen him kind of back out of certain things, and I don't think many of our ex-pros are that close to the club. And if they are they don't really speak. I'm thinking of when was the last time Robert Pires did an interview, and he's with the club week in, week out. We shall move on to the next question. So I'll come back to you for this one. It's from Josh Robinson. Who's our most important player from now until the end of the season?
I'm torn between 3 or 4 players because I've actually really been impressed with Leno recently. I think he's been much, much improved, but I think Cech could come in and do a job for him. Kolasinac again has been up there with one of my players of the season. But if we're going to achieve all we want to achieve in terms of the top 4 finish and Europa League, it's got to be one of, and I'm absolutely carpeting the shit out of this, it's got to be one of Aubameyang, Lacazette or Ramsey. And I'd probably pick Ramsey. I know, and I'm not just saying that to appease Jace and get his good books. I really think, certainly just the way he played the other night in that Europa League game and what he brings to us, I don't think we really have another midfielder like that. And he just got this knack. I mean, we've seen it over the years in those FA Cup finals things that he absolutely turns up in those big games. And even when he's, even though he's leaving, if we got to Europa League final, he'd be one of my bets to say he'll probably score and he'll play a fantastic game. So I kind of think, when the pressure's on, it's a big game. Ramsey's the guy I want playing in it. So for me, it's Aaron Ramsey.
Is that one of those things you'd say is almost like his swan song? He's got, maybe 10, 11 games left?
Yeah, but I even think just the way he is as a person, that that wouldn't impact the way he would play, but that will only add to it, really. But I just think we don't have another, midfielder who can offer us that. And he just is a man for the big occasion. I mean, Aubameyang and Lacazette I'd put very much in that same bracket, but I feel as if we lost one of them, I think Lacazette could lead the line on his own. I think Aubameyang could lead the line on his own. I mean, if we lost both, I mean, fucking hell, it'd be Eddie and Nketiah for trying to lead us to glory. But I think we could cope if we lost one of them. The same with Leno. I think Cech could just about cope, and the same with Kolasinac. I think Monreal could. But I think if Ramsey went, we really would lose something that we can't really replace. Sorry for carpentering that.
That's all right. It's nice to, have someone carpenter it that's not Carpenter. Listen to his voice that often. Next,
what do you think? What do you think of that, Josh? Just quickly, who would you put in that bracket as the man we can't replace?
I mean, you've made a great point for Ramsey. He wasn't the one that initially came into my head. I was thinking Socrates because I think without him in the defence, we've looked shaky, or at least with Mustafi at centre back, we've looked shaky. So the opportunity.
The most important player for the rest of the season, which is the question, is Ozil. Everyone else has been playing really, really well. If Ozil can go from playing average to playing full peak Ozil, that's us done for the season. How good would that be?
Yeah, that's a great point. We've kind of looked at players that were playing well for us across the season. Perhaps it's a chance for one of those that hasn't necessarily been consistent across the season to, as you say, pull their finger out.
It's a good sign that there's not an obvious pick as well, actually, which I think we've had in years gone by, where I think back to the days of Van Persie dragging us to fourth and stuff. There's the fact that it's not obvious, I think, is a good thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I'll come to you this one from Noir Confidential. At the start of his Arsenal career, Wenger brought in a lot of his fellow countrymen to the club, and it's safe to say it worked out pretty well. Which Spanish players do you think Emery should realistically target this summer? Personally, I hope the rumours about Grimaldo are true.
Cool. That's.
By the way, did you see his goal?
Yes, I did.
That
is a tough question. I'm trying to think. Spanish players. Yep.
I've got a list. I'm not going to read it out of every French player that Arsene Wenger ever bought, and it was like this ended in 2013, by which time there was about 25 of them.
Jesus.
The first one being Remy Gard. For you.
I'm trying to think of Spanish players off the top of my head who may be available. Isco, maybe, is one. Who I think is a really talented player who's being criminally underused by Real. I don't know whether he'd be available. There was talk in the past. Oh, God. There must be some Spaniards at like Atletico and places like that. I can't think of any exact names, but I'm not against it. If that helps him get more of his ideas across. to other players within the squad. But I think that's fine. I think it's slightly different from when Arsene did it, because when he came in, the league was totally different. It was very, British centric, and although there were foreign players, it wasn't to the same level at Arsenal in particular as well. So I think that was more about helping players like Vieira come in, and Petit, and young players like Anelka and Emery and stuff. And that's why he brought so many French guys in to help them in particular. But yeah, if Emery wants to go full Spanish, it's not like the Spanish have got bad players, is it really?
No, it's true. It's not like going full German, which I think we tried, and then we saw their World Cup exploits.
Yeah.
Danny, I'll fly over to you for this one. This one is from Noir Confidential as well. What is your opinion on people having in inverted commas, second team? Is it as acceptable as long as they're from a different league? I know some of you guys on ABW can speak from experience. This is the question I said pre-pod. I didn't really want to answer.
Well, if you go to bergkampwonderland.co.uk, you can go and have a look at who are ABW, and it's got every single one of us, the format, our favourite formation, our favourite player, manager, stadium, blah, blah, blah. And then the last thing is all the teams you supported. Now, me and Chris, ours is long. My one's about 20 teams. But the rule for that is if the teams ever meet, only Arsenal can ever win. And if that's the case, you can have as many as you want. In England, I've got Barnet, because you always pick a shitty team. And Peterborough, my local team. And in Scotland, Celtic and Berwick Rangers, Berwick. So I think it's okay as long as your priorities never sway from you wanting Arsenal to win. But then again, if it was in the League Cup and it was Arsenal, then I wouldn't mind seeing Barnet or Peterborough win. But if it is an important cup game, then absolutely not. I'd like to see Arsenal win 1-0. But if it's unimportant, yeah, so I think it's okay. But I don't like it when Patrick Vieira recently said that he wanted Rennes to beat Arsenal. He was disappointed that they didn't win. Stuff like that can never be forgiven.
Has anyone else got any views on having second teams?
I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me.
No, I don't think so. Did anyone see, speaking of second teams, there was a tweet that was doing around the other day, wasn't it, where they basically had all the countries and everyone had to say who their sort of second teams was, and Casillas got everyone excited because he did it for England and he put Newcastle.
Oh.
But did you see his team? So this is what Casillas put. He put obviously his favourite Spanish team is Real Madrid, Germany Schalke, England Newcastle, Italy Napoli, France Marseille, Holland Ajax, Portugal Porto, Brazil Santos, Argentina Boca, Mexico Cruz Al. I mean, it's pretty fucking bait, Ika. Jesus Christ. Of course you like Porto, Santos and Boca. Christ, no. But yeah, so I think yeah, and the other thing I actually used to like watching Ajax when I was younger, because I used to love it when they had all the young players who, turn on to be fantastic. So I always have a soft spot for them. But as Danny says, it's as long as it's not, your loyalties aren't torn when Arsenal are playing them, then I don't think it really matters, does it? So
plus, you've got to have a good reason. Like I was speaking to my mate Kevin Campbell last night, and I was saying it's his fault that I support Trabs on Sport. I had to drop that in there. I did a podcast with Kevin Campbell. Cheers, Craig. Yes, I said it's your fault. I support Trabs on Sport. They're rubbish, and I support Khan because of Graham Ricks. So often there's a connection like that. But there's too many people who will glory hunt. You'll have Man United, PSG, Real Madrid, Juventus, Benfica. That's kind of cheating. If you're going to have another club, make it an interesting club. Pick them for a reason.
Yeah, I'd like to apologise for listeners if Danny hasn't edited out that massive clang from the name drop he just did there as well.
Josh, you haven't answered. Have you got a second team, though?
Yeah. At the time, they weren't playing in the same league. That's really awkward.
Is that what you were at the weekend, cheering them along, you splitter?
No, I didn't go to Millwall. I'd get fucking stabbed.
I thought you were there. You tweeted a picture of it.
No, I didn't. I wasn't there. No, I wasn't there. I was watching it on TV. No, but I am going to Wembley to watch them.
Turncoat. I remember the days when we used to go
I mean,
to
if-
Wembley.
Yeah, exactly.
By the
If
way,
we were at-
listeners,
Oh,
it means
Wembley.
Brighton, not Millwall.
No, not Millwall. Yeah. Yeah, when I started supporting them, it was a local side and it was about a tenner to get in. And, you know, when it's 10 miles up the road and it's not trying to get to Arsenal, 45 quid a ticket, and no Arsenal supporters in my family, and you're only 11, can't really got there on your own.
Would have done in the good old days. 2 and 6 on the bus.
Yeah.
I think it
You know
was
what
work,
it-
to be fair, that I want Watford and Palace to do well because they're the teams I cover, and I want Watford to win the FA Cup so I can go on European trips next year.
Tired Watford to win the FA Cup. How dare you? I dislike
It's all right,
Typical
Mark.
journo.
So, I mean, you enjoy coming back up to, you know, like Preston and Blackpool when Palace get relegated.
Oh, Christ. Doncaster away in the FA Cup was tough enough. So
Carlisle away. Oh, you'll get some lovely trips.
Play to see Stoke play.
Should go back to some of the questions.
Yeah.
Let's go from, because we're getting towards the ones that I would say are less serious than the other questions we've had.
I think you're filtering them. That'll teach people not to send. Mike's never going to get another question read out again.
Mike hasn't sent us a question.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if you're going to filter them from now on, it's no point him sending any in because they're usually shit.
I'm not filtering. I'm going for all of them. I've just split them out.
Filter.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Mike. If you send any questions in, I'm not going to read them. This one's from Jimmy DCU Gooner. I think we're going to go to everybody because I'm sure we've all got some of this. As Nike have sponsored the Spurs' new stadium, assuming it would actually ever get completed, how would you have disposed of all of your Nike apparel? So, Danny, I'll start with you.
I would give it all away in some trumped up Arsenal give away 1 million views thing. I'd give away all the old shit I don't want to unsuspected mugs. And the bloke who's won my socks lives in Boston. I've got to post a pair of fucking socks to Boston.
I'm so glad that he said he wants them. They're so good.
He didn't. He asked about 3 times. Are you sure you're going to send them? I said, yeah. I think he was looking for a way out. So that's where is he? Imran Khan. He lives in Boston, so it might actually be fine. He lives in Brighton, in Boston. It might actually be cheaper for me to go and find someone eBay America and then just get them to post them to him for about $2 rather than spending about 20 quid posting something that he's just going to give to the dog. Yeah. So
I don't think the only Nike stuff I have are Arsenal shirts. That's it. I don't have a pair of Nike trainers because they're ugly as fuck and they've got a massive tick on them.
I'm wearing a pair now, thanks.
No, well, I don't know why you're wearing a pair.
Because I only own 1 pair of shoes because they last me 12 years each. And when I get rid of them, the soles are like new. It's just the top part that gets ruined.
Why do you? Okay, never mind. See, that was going to go down a really weird direction then. Danny, why have you got shoes? That's one for your podcast, for your little 30-minute ramp up. So, yeah, I haven't got any Nike stuff to get rid of. I prefer Adidas, personally. Okay.
All right, Ozil, back in your box.
Simon, what are you doing with all your Nike stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit like John. I haven't got much, but I do have Nike trainers, but just because they're so fucking comfortable. It's like putting your foot in a lounge. But I would probably, I would really feel for Chris with this because I swear he just has so much Nike stuff because he's got loads of kids. But I would probably, I'd go out on the street, I'd sell it, and I'd use the money to donate to the club to hire a technical director. That's what I'd do. to a worthy cause.
I think Chris's entire wardrobe is Nike, to be fair.
Yes. I mean, my concern would be that Chris would burn his and burn himself. The only thing he has are those boots. And now I have that image of him in my head of him without any clothes on and just those boots.
Oh, he's got some Puma shorts as well. So it's just going to be him in some
Oh,
Puma
okay.
shorts.
And he's got some rhinestones as well. He's got rhinestones which he can sparkle with.
And his cowboy hat. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Chris. All of my stuff is Nike.
You're in a boat with Chris, so if you become a pirate.
Yeah, I've become a pirate. He just gets me to scrub his poop deck.
Oh, move along.
There's the title of this podcast. He gets me to scrub his poop deck.
Right. Yeah, I'm realizing I'm the one that needs to move this on as well. We've got some more questions. One from Gary Stryers. No relation to Curtis Steigers. I don't understand the reference, Danny. What is it?
It just sounds like Steigers, doesn't it?
With Stryers, though, it's different.
Not if you spell it wrong.
Okay, thanks. This question is, should we get into the Champions League next year? What would we consider a good season? John?
Okay, so if we qualify, I would say a good season would be top 4 and a deep cup run. Possibly winning the League Cup or the FA Cup, I think would be a good to very good season. I don't think you should expect too much more than just getting, retaining top 4 again after a first season back in. I wouldn't expect to be challenging for the title or anything like that, or obviously not winning the Champions League either. That'd be kind of ridiculous to expect that in that quicker turnaround. But like a decent run in the FA Cup or the League Cup, maybe win one of them, could maybe get 3rd place or something in the league, I think would be reasonable.
Yeah, Si, do you have anything on that as well?
I would think retaining position in the Champions League would be the priority, I think, and getting that consistency. I would think that would be my par for the course, and then a good season would be quarterfinals of the Champions League and winning an FA Cup and finishing in the top 4. That for me would be a very good season. But the key is to, once you're in the Champions League, to stay in it regularly, to have that financial security where you can know each season you're going to get it. It's not worth coming back in it for a season and falling out. So that for me would be the aim.
Nice. Danny, I have got a question for you. I'm going to apologise to Richard, Catch Us Cash, because I did say these were all the not sensible questions, but this one's really good.
You did a pod with him recently.
Well, I did do a pod with him. He's done.
Yes.
He's done a pod with me. Yeah, he's very good.
He smirched his good name.
Yeah. Sorry, Rich.
No, I couldn't. You didn't answer the last question.
Do you want to answer the last question? You hate the Champions League.
Yeah, not anymore. I love it. I'm back on the Champions League bus. My answer would have been not getting smashed 10-2 by Bayern Munich on average, and then ended up getting knocked out of the Champions League in the group stages, and then getting some Kazakhstanian team in the Europa League again. That's my idea of a good season. Seriously, it is.
Wow.
Don't get knocked out in the group stage.
Yeah, I think that's why I avoided asking you.
Fair enough. Wise words.
But yeah, this was a question for you from Cactus Cash. Who will fill out our homegrown quota next season?
I thought you might ask me this one, so I'm going to have a little looky poo. And we have got Pedro. He should be, if he stays at the club centre back, he's Spanish, but he's been at the club for years, so he'll count. Iliev, possibly Macedonian, he'll count as English. Then we've got people like Ballard, Zach Medley, Olowu, Cohen Brown will be gone. Taji Bola.
Are they all old enough to count as homegrown? Because you've got to be over 21.
How old have you got to be? Because Julio's 22 and the rest are 18 or 19.
So you've got to be over 21.
Right, so Ben Sheaf, he's English. He's not going to be in anything to do with the first team. And Nketiah, nope, he's only 19. Saka is only 17. We're going to have a problem. Joe Willock's 19. Charlie Gilmore, he's 20. No, he's only just gone 20. OC Tutu, he's 20. He's going to be, no, he won't be old enough in time. Yeah, looks like we could well be in. Zach Medley is only 18.
It'll be like Holding, Hector.
Bellerin's a key one. The issue we've got is that a lot of those players like Holding, Welbeck would probably well be gone, but someone like Holding is homegrown, but he's not. You need 4, certainly for Europe, you need, in the Champions League, you need 4 who are homegrown from the club.
Yeah.
So in the Premier League, it's fine. It's just 3 years, aged under 21. But in Europe, you need 4 who are homegrown from the club, or you have to leave an empty space in the squad. So we've got Iwobi, which will be fine. Bellerin comes into that category. Someone like Holding is homegrown in general. Welbeck's homegrown in general.
Callum Chambers.
Yeah.
Smith Rowe.
So People like Smith. Anyone under 21 is a free slot. They don't take up space in the screen. You can have as many under 21s as you want. So, I think it'll be all right. We haven't had an issue with it before in the past. So, I think we'll be fine. We've still got Corporal Jenkinson if he stays. So
Smith Rowe's only 18. I thought he was about 20. That's terrible. But we are going to have, if some of those players leave, Welbeck's going to go, Jenkinson might go, and then that's going to be
Ramsey's the one as well. Ramsey's homegrown as well. So.
Ramsey. I mean, that's 4 players. So the ones I was listing were ones that from the under 23s who could possibly come up, but there's only going to be 1 or 2 there. So that's going to severely limit stuff. And like you were saying, Simon, we have to lose a player, which is why Mavropanos isn't in our Europa League squad because we didn't have enough players, so we got a 1-player penalty.
I mean, to be fair, for years we put Wilshire in there as well.
Well, West Ham are going to release him, aren't they? So we can get him back.
You might as well just leave the blank spot, Danny. That's the point.
Get on with it.
Anyway, right. Final question, because this has taken a while. One for everybody. From Nicky Wilson. Who's your favourite Marvel or DC superhero? I'm going to kick this off with, because I'm a man with a very short memory and very simple needs, it is Brie Larson as Captain Marvel.
Or Brie Olsen, as I told my friends. And we were going, what can a porn star be in a major movie? And we decided, well, you do what you want nowadays. It was as much as I hated you. What did you say? Me next?
Yes, I did say you next.
Right, I don't know anything about these bloody films, but there was in Guardians of the Galaxy, first film good, second film don't bother watching it. There's one of the women in there, John, not the green one. What's the other one? She might have had tentacles on her head.
What?
Oh,
you mean the what? No, she's in the second one. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Japanese one.
You mean the one with the antennas? I can't.
That's it. Her.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
She looks the right
You're
sort.
just shit with names in general, aren't you?
I don't remember women's names either, so I'm bad.
Oh, that's a different reason. So there's no point. He just started numbering them.
Just lines on his spreadsheet.
If I can go next, mine is just purely because of a tweet that I've seen. The question, it was a poll that was on Twitter, and the question that was put out there was Avengers Endgame poll. How does Thanos lose? And the option was Captain Marvel or Ant-Man expands in his arse, which won with 90%. And that has won it for me because just the idea of Ant-Man killing Thanos that way. So Ant-Man is my favourite one.
My one is Mantis, played by Pom Nketiah.
The guy who was in Friends who married Phoebe, that guy.
Paul Rudd.
Yeah. I actually preferred the second Guardians of the Galaxy anyway. I thought it was better. I thought it was funnier.
Oh, well, you behave yourself. It was an absolute turd of a film. The first one was bad enough.
To answer the question, Josh, there's only one answer to it, is Batman. So there you go. Move on.
Of course, we'd all go Marvel because we're all happy, and then John goes DC.
He does.
Batman's better. Sorry.
Batman's just got money. It's like supporting Chelsea. It's only good because he's got money.
You know why Batman's
Before
better?
that,
He's got no superpowers, and he can still kick Superman's ass. That's how fucking cool he is.
Special effects, wasn't it?
Yeah. Actually, my favourite is Deadpool. Fucking hilarious guy.
There you go.
Nice. Well, that's all the questions. I don't know who I'm passing over to Five's Forum.
Well, what Danny's going to do is he's going to very hurriedly copy and paste 5 forums into the thing, and I'm going to hand
finally done it.
And I'm going to say Park 5, and it's 5 forum time.
Yeah, it's 5 forum. Thank you guys for joining 5 forum. The question which we put out there was, who do you want to be our director of football? Do you have any friends, family, or even pets that could do the job? So we had Jimmy DCU Gooner who said, I've got a buddy who is really good at getting deals on eBay. This is essentially the same thing, right? I'll give him a call. We had, oh God, how am I going to pronounce this name? I mean, Danny Sid, yes, because I knew I should have come to you. Sid has said, easy, Danny the German flower pot. Good job. Femster said, my son is 3 years old and walks around talking like he's Batman with the grizzly voice and everything. Can I put him forward for the job? Gets my vote. Well, gets John's vote, definitely. Gooner Oscar said, let's give the technical director to @AFC Freddy 8. Fuck, have you seen what he's done with the Pirates? Ridiculous. He has a managerial experience and has an eye for upcoming players in the feeder league. That is true, though. Noir Confidential says, didn't Pires say that he wants to become a sporting director at Arsenal? Maybe give him the job since he actually wants it. He does have a connection with the club and has a good reputation. Cactus Cash, in brackets Richard, says the current director of football of Leicester City, John Rudkin, who has done a bloody good job there. Otherwise, I could do a job. I've played Championship Manager a couple of times. I've done a Squawker comparison matrix, and I've won the treble on FIFA. The Gooners podcast says this is an easy call. There's one man for the job. Hashtag Super Kev for director of football. And the final one is Philip George Ashman, who says, my youngest son has the best football brain of anyone I know, and I've been in football all my life. I actually wrote to the club about him replacing Sven. Guess what? No reply. Well, that's the forum.
That's pretty good. We said our suggestions earlier, didn't we? Has anyone got any changes on who, or after reading through them?
Yeah, after hearing Chris Carpenter being put forward, that's got my vote. So he'd be cheap anyway, wouldn't he?
Yeah, we'll all go every game.
Yeah.
No, just no.
Imagine how much abuse we could give for the signings. We could give so much abuse for signings.
Like,
we'd never sign anyone though.
I'm going to have to find that message again, the Arteta can do a job against West Brom message, and the date, and then show the date of the game after that when he plays and comes on, scores a main goal and gets sent off.
You know what the first thing Chris would do, though? He'd go back and watch every single ABW that he's been on, make notes of all the players he said we were going to sign. Malcolm and the rest would all be here the next day just to prove a point.
But you just have to deal with Jace just being like, you got to sign Ramsey, Chris. You got to keep him. That's all you have to deal with. It'd be nightmare, wouldn't it?
German, apparently. Excellent.
Sign him, Chris. Right, yeah, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, right.
Send it into anarchy.
Before we say our goodbyes, we'll do our gentlemen's nods. Gentlemen, get your nods ready. Danny.
Right, I've got one from Jason and all of us. It's to Alonso, who is a long-time listener to the pod. Jason says sends you a big hug. And then the second one is to all the people who donated during the live show. You gave us a load of money. We've gone and spunked it all on What's It. So that is Jackosaurus, Jamie Fitzgerald, Bitchgard, we always do that, Darryl Kane, Daniel Marge, Benoit Messier, Thomas McClements, the Muslim RC Racer, Seatail, Jonas Segnanberg, give us 20 quid. Akib, Sean Mursh, Unique 79, Yvonne Okofor, and Michael Hanneman. And finally, I've had a special request from a certain Chris Carter. I don't know if we never mentioned him on any of the shows ever. Small favour. Pirates are in the semi-final this weekend of the Marshall Motors Southwest Challenge Cup v Activate. It didn't put an 8 in the middle of that. They're missing a trick there. Shall we nick your gentleman's nod? Yes, you can, Chris. Good luck to the Pirates.
Can you say the name of that trophy again, please?
The Marshall Motors South, isn't that Eminem's real name? Marshall Motors Southwest Motor Challenge Cup.
That's the one they all want to win. That's the one they want.
It's got Pirates written all over it, and if they don't win it, they'll steal it. Job done.
That's wonderful.
Even the Pirates didn't try and win that.
That is my favourite name for a trophy I think I've ever heard.
I think it was the fact you calling it as Eminem's real name.
I think it was his real name. Just like Chris has had his middle name changed to Hybrid. And can they be Nike as well next?
Oh, Josh, who's your gentleman's nod for?
I was going to go for the copywriter who's done the Tottenham Legends game for trying to eke out what makes Robbie Keane a legend for them, and Timi Tino as well. But I will go with Dan_AFC94.
There you go. Simon, your gentleman's nod, please.
Mine goes to, I don't know, you might have heard of him. He's at BBC Sport _Davis. Oh, that's for Jace. I said I'd do that every week. But in all seriousness, I want to give my shout out to someone who gets a lot of stick, a lot of abuse. But he's our very own.
Not too much, we'll get banned.
before we get taken off YouTube. It's the very own Chris Carpenter, our very own Rhinestone Cowboy. He plugs away. He gets a lot of abuse, but we love him. So, and also sending our love to Goonaholic, because he's been a bit ill recently, but it sounds like he's getting on the mend. So love to him. That's a serious one. The other two were just stupid ones.
Right, I've got two. One's comedy. Just if you like this sort of comedy, it's called Out of Context Pornhub. It is at Out of Context PH. It's hilarious. If you're not a fan of not safe for work things, don't look at it though. But it does always make me laugh every day. And the other one is for a brand new podcast. It's not football related. I just started a new job a few weeks ago and found out one of the guys there has literally like 5-6 episodes into a podcast. He just rambles for 20 minutes about stuff he wants to talk about that week. I think on one of the episodes recently, he was talking about an awkward incident where he had to use a disabled toilet and went through the door to where the disabled toilets were and discovered there was a huge queue of people with actual real disabilities, and he didn't know whether to pretend to have one or not because he felt so out of place. But yeah, it's very funny. It's called Happy Friday. So it's at Happy and then FRIDEVE. So yeah, give him a follow, check him out. First episode's a little bit shaky, but it gets better as it goes along. But yeah, please go give him a listen and support him. And I think that's it. That is everything for this week. So thank you for listening. We will be back. When are we back, Danny? Because interlull and stuff.
Well, the Dirty Pirate has apparently lined up some YouTube sensation. We're going to do something FIFA based. So yes, that'll be good because it'll just be him going, "Why can't I score? It's not fair." Just that for an hour at the bloke until he leaves.
Well, there you go.
I've heard it's Mark Goldbridge.
Yes.
Don't get people excited. You imagine, oh God, if it was live as well, the abuse you'd get.
So Chris or Mark?
Both.
Yeah. So be sure to be watching our Twitter page and our Facebook page, and obviously we'll update when a new pod is live. But that's it. Try and suffer through your interlull. Keep it going as best you can. Just time for me to say thank you to Simon, Josh, and Danny for joining me, and thank you, listener, for putting up with this nonsense yet again. And we'll be with you very soon. We've been at Bergkamp Wonderland. Good night.
And here's some more shenanigans after the podcast ended.
Been at Bergkamp Wonderland. Good night. Say good night, Danny.
Turn this shit off, John. Oh, wrong show. Good night, John.
You're supposed to say good night, Danny.
Good night, Danny.
There you go.
I don't like saying my own name, though. It gives me the willies. I think someone's talking to me.
Oh, I'm still laughing at that trophy.
Oh dear.
It all got a bit silly, didn't it?
Yeah, that's the way.
Have you guys seen the Spurs Legends lineup?
Yeah, I saw Pascal Chimbonda is on the list.
Surprised they can make a 5-side with those fuckers.
You know who's managing?
To be fair, we roll out some pretty rogue ones when we have them as well, but they are worse rogue ones than ours, obviously.
I mean, yeah, fair enough that we had to put Gavin Hoyt out at right back, but at least we had Robert Pires on the wing.
Yeah,
he's joining Liverpool. That's his highlight of his first career.
Oh dear.
Well, Gary Mabbott is manager for him because Harry's too busy.
Busy trying to get his dog to answer his emails. I do like old Harry though. He's a nice bloke.
We got Mickey Hazard, Jurgen Klinsmann, Mark Falco.
How long was that, Dan?
About an hour and 40, because you flew through that last bit, making up for Josh milking. Oh, pardon me, every last second of the.
Yeah, we did, considering at the start, we go, God, it's fucking nothing to talk about. We did well to talk for that long.
Yeah, and we hurried up. We could have done another hour just on sexual innuendos in films.
Yeah,
that's all John could do, not to go on about it more.
Hopefully, Chris appreciates the shout out anyway.
That's nothing but Chris. I'm thinking of naming this show, this one, 284, announce Wenger, in brackets, I'll know D.o.F. That'll get a few people thinking, what? Because that's the only thing we come up to.
He lets me clean his poo hole or whatever Josh said. That was quite good, I thought.
We don't have the word poo. I've realised we need to stop using silly things, get things that are titles that people don't go, what? Breaking news. We know who the D.o.F. is.
You mean like clickbaity type?
Yeah.
How dare you? But yes. Once we did one, we translated it into French, and even now I've got no idea what we were saying. I don't know. That silence says it all.
Cowboy director of football, something? I don't know.
Hashtag announce carpenter. As director of football. Or something.
Yeah, change it to Chris. Chris Carpenter, our new DOF. God, he'd be cracking one off to that for a week.
I thought this was going to be clickbaity. No one knows who Chris Carpenter is.
Wait, how do you take that back? Your words hurt.
Oh,
So-
sorry. What was it? The Marshall Motors semi-finalist, Chris Carpenter.
That is an achievement because if he gets through to the final, Jason's going to go down there. He'll probably get a game. If it's not too muddy, I might get a game.
How spot on was my Welsh accent?
Terrible.
Was it bang on?
It was better than my one on the radio.
It was somewhere between Banger and Banglador.
So, having a vote, we're going to call it Chris Carpenter, our new DOF, or Wenger?
All in the sight.
Chris Wenger Carpenter.
Chris Wenger or something.
Wenger is the Black Panther.
Huh?
Or like Arson Carpenter. Arson Carpenter, our new director.
Chris, and then in a little bit, a quote thing, Arson Carpenter. Chris Arson Carpenter. Oh, and then she'll get last week's. It'll be the Southern Cup final Motors Things champion.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone quiet.
Where is everyone?
Don't know.
Like a round cowboy.
They're on their phones, aren't they?
I was reading something.
What are we going to go
That
for?
tweet
John?
got me. Ant-Man exploding.
For Arsene Wenger, a new DOF, or Chris Carpenter, or Chris Arson Carpenter?
John Cross, our new director of football.
Oh, God.
No, I mean, no one will listen. Delete.
Oh, no, to put it, Cowboy Director Incoming, question mark.
What was that trophy called again?
The Marshall Motors.
Marshall Mathers. Yeah.
Call it the Marshall Motors podcast or something like that. I don't know.
Don't give them free advertising, for fuck's sake.
So then he might think we're belittling the fact that he's going to get to a final.
Well, of course we're going to belittle him. We're going to belittle him until he wins something.
And then we're going to call him a
we do
fraud.
is fucking belittle each other.
Yeah, then we'll say he's a fraud because he's bought in new players.
Yeah.
How about the
Been
Marshall
used all that
Motors?
donations money. He's like an oligarch in that league.
How about the Marshall Motors Southwest Challenge Cup Wonderland?
Oh,
I think Cowboy Director Incoming, question mark, is a good one.
that
That's
one.
clickbaity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rhinestone Cowboy incoming? Type this out again. 284. Right, so what are you saying, John?
Cowboy Director Incoming, question mark.
Cowboy D.o.F. Incoming. I just feel it's incoming double M. Don't know why I always want to stick another M in there.
No.
And D.o.F. Yes.
Oh, you just put capital D, little O, big F.
Aren't they a technical director, not director of football?
That's the same thing, isn't it?
No, because Thingy's director of football, isn't he?
Oh, for fuck's sake. I
So
don't know.
yeah, he's director of football. Oh no, this the other guy that's director of football.
No, he's not
head of
director.
football.
He's
Head of football, something, isn't it?
head of football relation. Oh, fuck. I don't know. We've made
Darren Burgess is like head of technical performance or something, or footballing performance.
people know they know what direction.
There's a good tweet here that someone just put, get Rabiot's mum in as our technical director.